The Lost Expedition, a game published by Osprey Games, and a game that can be played in several modes. It can be played competitive or cooperative or solitaire. I played it only in solitaire mode, and this is the mode that I'm going to review today. And I bought this game actually precisely to play it in that fashion, because I was on a trip recently and I wanted some games that I could play by myself when no one was around, in a different town, when I don't have a circle of friends I can meet to play with, yada yada yada. So The Lost Expedition. In this game you will be controlling a party of explorers that are going to survive in the jungle and are going to try to find the lost city of El Dorado. You have a path of 9 cards here, and your job pretty much is to move a pawn that represents your party to the end of the line. So it's a pretty long line, and I'm not talking only in terms of game spaces, but just physically. That is, the job of this line of cards here could be performed by a simple card divided in 9 spaces, and it would just work. Because all this does really is to mark the position of your party and the distance from the destination. If you manage to reach the destination, you win the game. Most likely you won't. This is a tough game to beat. And you will lose the game if you lose your 3 explorers. So you use 3 explorers every time that you play the game, and if they all die, you lose the game. If even one of them makes it there, you win the game. The explorers, each explorer is represented by 2 cards. Pretty much you have a male and female version for each explorer. Each explorer has a symbol here, and the symbol is really all that matters. So at the beginning of each game you will select 3 of these explorers, as long as you have 1 for each of these symbols. These symbols represent specific fields of expertise. If there's a challenge that requires this expertise or this one, then an explorer that has that symbol on their card is better than the others at solving that problem. You have tokens. You place health tokens on each explorer at the beginning of the game. They will lose health during the game. If an explorer goes down to 0 health, the explorer is eliminated. You also have other types of tokens, this time representing resources that the explorers are using, and in particular we have food and ammo. Ammo is used to perform certain tasks. Food, you have to spend it when the game instructs you to do so, and if you do not have it for each food that you cannot pay, that you do not have in your personal reserve and you cannot pay, then an explorer loses a point of health. The game is played in a sequence of turns that alternate morning turns and evening turns, but the general structure is very similar for mornings and evening. Here you have this deck of adventure cards, very nice looking, oversized, as you can see, sort of like tarot sides. And from the style, you see is the style of the French and Belgian comic books of authors such as Hergé in Tintin. That's probably the most famous reference, but it's a style that between France and Belgium has been very popular in the last decades. It's called Ligne Claire, and again, it's very beautiful, and since this kind of like really manages to capture the spirit of that style of comics, also this game is very visually appealing. You start with a morning turn, you shuffle the deck, and then you deal a hand of 6 adventure cards to yourself. Basically, you will be playing cards from your hand, and then you will also be drawing cards from the deck until you have a line of 6 cards here, which you will resolve from left to right. As you can see, cards have numbers here. During the morning turns, the cards, after being played, are arranged in a numerical order. So I start by drawing 2 cards from the deck, say these 2, we got 47 and 33, so we place them like that. Then I play 2 cards, then I draw another card, then I play another card. So 3 from hand, 3 from there, line of 6. And again, when I play cards, I have to place them in numerical order from lowest to highest. I'm not looking to see if the strategy that I'm using makes any sense. Most likely not. Heck, I have a hard time finding a good strategy when I'm paying attention, let alone when I'm placing cards randomly just to show you how the game works. So you will have a line of 6 cards here that you will need to resolve one at a time from left to right. Basically, when you resolve cards, you interact with these icons that you see here. When you have these red banners, you must choose one, exactly one, and resolve the effect described on the icon. So here, one of these 3 effects. Here, one of these 3 effects. When you have a yellow effect or multiple yellow effects, yellow effects are mandatory, so you have to perform this effect, and blue effects are optional. You can choose whether you want to perform them or not. As for the icons, if an icon represents a resource in the game in black, that means you gain that resource. If it is in white, it means you have to spend that resource. Food, ammo, and health are represented by these tokens. These are the things here, the expertise points or the expertises are represented by the cards itself. For example, if I'm resolving this card, remember I choose one of these, I can choose to take a food from the general supply and add it to my personal supply, or I can choose this symbol here to skip the next card. So that's when the placement of the cards is particularly important, because I'm trying to place the nastiest cards and next to cards that will allow me to discard them without resolving them. Or I can choose to save this card for these 2 types of expertise. So for example, when I take this, I simply, if I decide to use that effect, when I acquire expertise, I simply take the card with that symbol. I can give it to one of the explorers, which I like to do just for thematic purposes, but in truth, it simply means that now that card has become part of my resources, and it means that I can discard it to pay for the requirement of a similar expertise. Then what do we have here? Here we need to discard, we can choose to discard a food and then gain the card for this expertise here. Or we can choose to spend a bullet and switch the location of the 2 cards in the line. Or suppose we don't have any of these things, ouch, ouch, then we lose 2 health points. And if we have a requirement of paying for expertise, if we have a card with that symbol, we can discard that symbol. Suppose we had acquired this one, then we are encountering this card here that requires us to discard some expertise. And I'm gonna discard me that expertise. If I don't have a card with expertise to discard when I am required to pay for expertise, then I can discard a health point from a character with a matching expertise. So, for example, 1 health points here. Or if that character, I don't want to kill that character, maybe the character is down to 1, I'm hoping to heal the character later. Or maybe the character is not in play anymore. So in case I decide not to or cannot use that expertise, I can use some other player, some other explorer, but this time it takes 2 health points. I had to spend 2 health points to pay for 1 expertise when it is not the specialist that is facing the task. Here, then I'm mandated to discard the next card, and then I can choose to gain the expertise. Or, and this is a very important icon, it is the movement icon. It is actually what we need to move along that path. No such icons, no path. So I can choose to gain this expertise and that's it. Or to spend this expertise if I have it, or if I decide to remove health from my people and move by 1. Or, remember, it's always 1 only, or move by 1 by spending a health point. So I resolve all the cards, hopefully I will have moved a little bit. And then I'm left at the end of the morning turn with a hand of 3 cards. Now we do the evening turn, which is very similar, but this time we draw cards from the deck and then we add cards to the line, right or left. This time we get to ignore the numbers. In the morning you follow the numerical order, in the evening you don't. And so you have a little more flexibility here, but when you add cards, you can only add them to the external edges of the line. So you have a little more flexibility, but I cannot insert a card here. For example, this card is negative. It makes me lose a food. This card here, I could choose to discard the following cards. It would be great if I could stick it in here, but I can't. So that is the limitation. Different types of limitation. The morning you have to take into account the effect that the numerical order will have. Here you have to play with the edges until again you have a line of 6 cards, 3 from your hand, 3 from here. You resolve them, and then you deal yourself a hand of 6 cards, and you start the next morning turn, followed by an evening turn, and so on and so forth. And this is how it works. You play like this until all your 3 explorers are dead. Otherwise, if you're lucky and you're really good, you play until all your 3 explorers are dead a little closer. I think you see where this is going, because then maybe you're really, really good and your 3 explorers die here. I played the game, I believe, maybe 6, 7 times, and this is as furthest as I ever went. 2 cards from the Lost City. This game, has somebody won it out there? Is it winnable? Please tell me, because I can't figure out how to. But I still like the game. I'm still excited. You know, I like games, solitaire games that are challenging and hard. But of course, there's a point where I'm like, this is too much. Not this one. I don't know that I will ever win it. But I know that I'll play it in the future because I find this game really entertaining. Strangely thematic when you think that in truth it's all about the icons. It's all about manipulating the order of the cards here and making sure that I discard the nasty ones and that I get the rewards of the best ones, which then the best ones I'm protecting from the discard effect. It's very abstract. It's really about manipulating, but somehow it may be the art, it may be a good job that the designer has done of matching certain icons, certain effects with certain things. But it really actually there is a sort of strange thematic sense that emerges from this purely abstract mechanics. I mean, I can read the icons, I can see a story in it. I'm talking about a crocodile. I can spend a bullet to kill the crocodile and gain some food. Who doesn't like a good crocodile kebab? Or if I don't want to spend it, or I can't, then I draw 2 more cards. That's what the icon is. So to avoid the crocodile, we took a long detour, and now we have to deal with other stuff. Progress, yay, I can choose to just rush through the jungle, so I can move. If I have enough expertise, I can move fast, or with enough expertise, spend my time foraging, or do the same thing by spending different types of expertise, or instead, I'm taking it easy since not much is happening, then one of my people will heal a wound. River crossing, I can gain knowledge if I'm exploring this area, or rush through it, so I'm spending knowledge and move fast, or again, I move fast, but maybe I'm not paying much attention to what I'm doing and I get hurt. There's just a strange and very effective amount of theme that emerges from this. Thematic players will be pleased, and abstract players can be pleased. There's something for everybody in here. So, the game is pleasant to look at, and it's also pleasant to play. It really is a puzzle, but again, it's a strangely thematic one. As a puzzle, technically, the game is all about manipulating the order of the cards in the line that you had to solve, and hand management. The cards that I'm using in the morning, I'm not using them in the evening, and vice versa. The nasty cards that I have in my hand at the beginning of the turn, maybe I'll wait for the evening turn, hoping for a better chance that there will be cards that come out that allow me to discard them, and I can place them right next to them. Of course, then I'm placing a card, and then the order in which they come out doesn't allow me to do so, but that's okay. So the game really is about hand management and manipulating the order of the cards here. Because technically, theoretically, when you start the phase of resolving them, you should be on autopilot. There is no randomness there. You know everything that's going to happen. And yet, maybe because I'm a fallible human being or because I don't have much of an engineer's mind, I make decisions all the time when I'm actually resolving the line. That is, first I make a plan, very careful plan. I'm going to use that card to get that resource, spend it there, get that expertise, do that other thing. And then as I start resolving it, I change my mind. So that may not be an optimal way of playing the game, but it makes me entertain in both phases, the preparation of the line of cards and then the resolution of the line of cards. And of course, again, the engineering mind, the perfectly planning mind that goes on autopilot will have the satisfaction of seeing the plan that was perfectly prepared to play itself out and to lead to the results that one should expect, which is death, and maybe once in a million the result that one would like, which is survival. And again, maybe now in the comments everybody will say, dude, that is the easiest game that I ever played. My toddler daughter can beat it. Good for you and for your toddler daughter. I'm sharing my experience, which is like I find this terrifyingly hard to beat. In a sense, it reminded me for level of difficulty of Ghost Stories. I mean, Ghost Stories also you will lose almost every game, and I like Ghost Stories too. What are the odds? So two simple Ghost Stories and Lost Expedition. Two simple, intuitive, and yet also very thematic games. Yes, they have these elements in common. The Lost Expedition, it looks great, it is fun to play for a nice challenge, one that is easy to learn, meaning the rules are pretty intuitive, and gameplay is also very intuitive and very thematic. It has definitely some depth, although it may be hidden at the beginning. You may feel a little disappointed. Well, I'm just placing a card here instead of there. What is the depth? I'm improving every time, and not to the point where I'm particularly satisfied of my level of expertise with the game, but I'm improving, and I can see that there are layers of complexity that you can kind of like discover, you can unlock. Gameplay does remain very linear, which is a virtue when it is compared to when it is paired with linear procedures paired with actually deep and rewarding branching tree of options, different things that you can do around the core simplicity, interesting choices that you can make and that keep you engaged with the design. The Lost Expedition, I cannot comment on the other modes, but I can tell you for a fun solitaire game, this definitely is a good option. I enjoy playing it. I'll play it more in the future, and if I ever get to win it, maybe I'll let you know. Maybe I'll update my video and celebrate. For now, I haven't done that, but I have played the game and I really, really enjoyed it.